We are ready. Okay, so I am calling the WSESD School Board meeting to order. It is Tuesday, April 30th. We're in the Cusick room. Couple of amendments to the agenda. Right under board matters, the first letter A, it should not say 20 minutes, and it's just going to be a moment of an update. We're not discussing those issues. So those 20 minutes, that marker on the first page is a mistake. And the other amendments to the agenda are under the fiscal report. I think there'll be a brief discussion of capital plan projects.
Okay.
And some discussion about warrants and accessibility for the public having to do with warrants. So that will be under fiscal report. Before we continue, are there any other amendments to the agenda? Tim?
If I may make a brief announcement about one of our graduates after Student Matters.
Yes, okay, after Student Matters, perfect, thank you. Anything else from anyone? Okay. So I need to begin with a hybrid statement. It's a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties. If that occurs, please notify someone in this space by email. We will attempt to correct the problem. If that technical difficulty cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary. And please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by a roll call vote in accordance with the law. So, agenda, student matters. That's what we're beginning with.
We did put the words.
Thank you very much. I did ask that perhaps as we come into the space, we have a reminder about meeting norms. We worked on this last year in a series of workshops, retreats with someone named Momotel. So that's what's up there, and I just thought it would be a good reminder about how we come to this space.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you. Student matters, student voices. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear what your concerns are. So if anyone is accessing us remotely, please indicate that you want to speak. So again, I'm opening it up to student voices, and I don't see anyone at this time. Moving on. We're going to board matters.
No, okay.
I'm sorry.
Brief.
Oh, so sorry, Tim.
No,
So
no
sorry. Yes,
I mean,
you just
you
asked
got
for
it.
that.
I
Yes,
understand.
yes.
I'll get over it. No, but seriously, one of the most prestigious college academic awards in the country is the Truman Scholarship, a $30,000 award for graduate studies given to college students who intend to work in public service. One of only 2 finalists in Vermont this year was a name that a lot of you will recognize, Amelia Glickman, a product of our school district, a BUHS graduate and salutatorian, who is now a junior at the University of Vermont. Although the Washington, D.C. committee did not choose Amelia for the award, just to be a finalist from among 700 applicants from 300 colleges It is quite an honor, and it's also testimony to the quality instruction she received from her teachers at the Dummerston Central School and BUHS. So congratulations to her teachers and congratulations to Amelia Glickman.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And congratulations to Amelia. Board matters. The first item is a carryover from the last agenda, going back to April 9. And we had anticipated having a meeting to discuss these very meaty pages, 55 to 60, as well as to discuss the IBRC report. At this point, I would like to reschedule discussion about these two items, and I'd like to reschedule it for the week of May 6th. It was originally scheduled for this Thursday. We are having a board retreat on Friday, and it may be that issues that we're discussing at the retreat will have a trickle effect on the work that will be done having to do with data. So I'd like the retreat to take place first, and then we'll shift over and reschedule this meeting. So that's what's happening with letter A. And we're going to move on. I think I wrote 2 individuals about this. So if there is no objection, I'd like to move on to the Code of Ethics that we all need to sign. So, yes, Christina.
Perhaps while you're passing that out, because I did want to make a public comment about the IBRC report and the annual budget meeting, and there really isn't a public comment time I saw that was applicable, so could I just sneak in a quick public comment there?
Yes, and I'm just going to pass this out at the same time.
I love multitasking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Anne, thank you. So Christina, you have the floor.
Christina Naylor from Dummerston, and also I serve on the Independent Budget Review Committee. And I just want to publicly apologize because at the budget information session, there was a member of the community that asked about the effectiveness of one of the programs we're investing heavily in the district, instructional coaching. And I did not, to be fair and to give myself an excuse, it was a whipsaw of a budgeting session for everybody in the room. But we did not have a good answer for that member of the public who has served our public schools longer than most of us have been alive. So I wish I'd had a better answer at the time, and so I have gone and done my due diligence, and I would like to report that instructional coaching is a relatively new concept, but there is a very good meta-analysis done by Harvard and Brown, Kraft, Blazar, and Hogan, I believe, in 2018. So meta-analysis is a study of all the work that has been done to date. It shows promising results. I'm sure Paul Smith could speak to it more professionally. This is just a hobby for me. It's a profession and a passion for him. But it does show promising results. There are challenges, and I think as this querier noted, it seems very expensive, and that is one of the challenges these researchers noted. It hasn't been around for a long time, so the long-term efficacy of this intervention is not entirely documented, as it could not be. And there are some challenges if you're taking highly effective teachers out of the classroom and moving them into coaching. You have overall reduced the effectiveness of the staff in some times. And so those are noted by the researchers. So I think people are doing it over the state of Vermont. They're looking at it. Kingdom East is doing it. Burlington is doing it. And they're publishing the results and monitoring the effectiveness of the program. So I would urge, because we're investing heavily, I would urge board members to become sort of more proficient at understanding what we're investing in heavily. And that I would also urge the board and myself and the IRBC members, when a taxpayer who is footing the bill for these has questions about the efficacy of interventions that are above 6 figures, that if we don't have the answer, we say we'll get back to you on it. And we try to demonstrate and model lifelong learning, cost effectiveness, and transparency and engagement with the public. So that's my point. Thank you.
Thank you. Since you've raised this issue, Christina, can you send a link to these studies? And then I can pass it around to the entire board.
An excellent cure for insomnia as well, but it's said.
Yes, we need that cure for insomnia, yes. No, not insomnia, we're reading this when we are wide awake. Thank you very much. All right. Code of Ethics is going around. Sean,
Yeah,
yes.
I just signed the Code of Ethics, and I was happy to do it. But the bullet point is adhere to norms. And then under norms, number 6, says avoid lengthy monologues. Recognize the goal of ending meetings at 9. So I'd like to have those two connected a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, just say that one more time. Which two would you like to see connected?
Well, it's the bullet point in respect my peers, to adhere to norms.
Yes.
So, and then in the norms, number 6, start the meetings at time, which we always do. Keep comments on the topic and avoid lengthy monologues.
Yes.
Recognize the goal of ending meetings at 9. So it's been in, they've been a partnership, but a little bit unsuccessful, shall we say?
Yes.
So if that could be moved into success, then I'd be prouder to have signed ethics.
Okay, are you asking for something to be revised on this?
No, certainly not now. No.
But just to make note of
just
it.
a point.
Yes, I appreciate that. Yes, I think we would all like to tighten up our meetings. I mean, that's a goal. So we're all going to try and do that. Yes, Ruby, thank you.
I am not in person, but I'm happy to stop into central office to sign the document. So I have no objection to the document, the Code of Ethics document, but to kind of touch on a similar, or at least to talk about the norms. In my mind, on an annual, in an annual kind of cycle, we as a board, particularly because we have new members, should be analyzing what are the norms that we have been using, and do they work, and are we adhering to them? And I think that there's we've referred to them, and we couldn't see them in Zoom world, but I think that you said that they were on the screen. But I think that whether it's in a retreat format or in meeting, or even if it's just not at the same time and we all are just submitting comments, I think somehow actually asking ourselves, is this working? And what should change on an annual basis? At this moment, around this moment, when we're talking about the Code of Ethics, would be a good practice.
Thank you, Ruby. I think that's an excellent point, and I think that meeting norms are only as good as they are current, and we should be assessing them annually. It might be something that we want to do in a public meeting. So thank you. We'll, Tim.
I support everything that Ruby said, and I would encourage us to review those norms, not just annually, but periodically. And when they're in violation, we acknowledge that we're violating the norms.
So we'll get this on the agenda shortly, sometime this summer. Thank you. Anything else on the Code of Ethics before we move on? Next item is board subcommittees. And it has to do with voting board members on different committees. Does anyone want to address that point? Eva, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to join the Finance Committee.
Okay, thank you, Eva. So in terms of voting board members, I think we did this, did we do this by motion at the reorganization? I do not remember, thank you very much. Or does, how do we suddenly become a voting board member on a subcommittee? Matt?
Madam Chair, I don't believe we voted for subcommittee elections. They were just board members elected to be
Yes.
on it.
Yes.
We've placed people before.
Got it, without a problem.
Yeah.
So, Eva, thank you very much. Welcome to Finance as a voting board member on that committee. So,
I
yes,
believe the only one we would need to vote on is the SU, because we did vote those in
Right.
to say that they were voting members.
got it, right. So, Eva, thank you. You are now officially on Finance. And I think we'll keep it on this level unless there is any future conflict coming from other committees. Any other shifts in membership on the various committees? Okay. The next item on the agenda, end of year appreciation. And this came up, I believe, on April 9. And there were, if I'm not mistaken, 3 board members who decided to do a little bit of legwork and think about this issue as it best serves the needs of our community. So Eva, Ruby, and Brian took this on. And I was wondering if there's any update or any information that you would like to share. Not to put anybody on the spot. I have things to say about it. Did you have your hand up?
I didn't, but I will.
I thought he didn't. He had it, and then it came down. And so I was, Tim, I was just giving him a little think time, sort of a smooth, easy approach. But Brian, it's on you now.
Okay, thank you. We had some conversation by email immediately after our meeting on the 9th. To my knowledge, we've not come to any conclusions. I was away and thinking that maybe Ruby and Eva would continue the conversation. I'll invite them to chime in, but some of the things we've talked about are a simple but sincere note of thanks to each staff member, having that delivered at a staff meeting at each school. Also asking the principals what they think their own staff would be most interested in having that would demonstrate our appreciation towards them. And Eva had the idea that she also expressed at that previous meeting related to summer program scholarships, and I would ask her to say more about that because that's more her idea than mine. So, so that's kind of where we are that I know about. I need to know what Ruby and Eva have on their minds to share.
So I don't see any hands up at this point. I can chime in a little bit on this because I raised it at the Dummerston Leadership Council at our last meeting, and I heard a lot of stuff. The porch gets high ratings for their wonderful sandwiches. We definitely have to get that individual a sandwich from the porch, absolutely. So, yes, okay. So a couple of things came up. One, we got into, just to bring this up to date for everyone in the space. 2 years ago, we did platters to every school. That seemed to work smoothly. Last year, we did platters to every school, and I think there was a bit of a traffic jam. It's really hard work getting it out, but in addition, I think every school was overloaded with end-of-year treats coming all at the same time. So that was the traffic jam. So what came up at the Dummerston Leadership Council, yeah, end of school year is great, but there's also October and November. And we all need a boost. as the school year commences and moves on. So there is that. I think that was really the big issue. There was also a sense of a card that might go out to every school community that would be signed by every board member, as well as some token of appreciation, a platter of, when I was thinking about it earlier, it's always nice to have a platter of something that you can grab on your way to a class, and that gives you a boost, okay? Nothing too fussy. Eva, I see your hand.
Ruby, could Ruby go before me? I'm
Ruby
just
can go. Ruby.
So this is just to answer to what something Brian mentioned. Even I did not have a continued conversation after you exited, Brian. And I think that the thing that I think would be helpful at this meeting is getting real clarity from the board around, as we've been talking about this, something I think is a priority in terms of our direction is a reduction in spending and cost around this particular, any show of appreciation. And so it would feel helpful to me if we as a board kind of gave some direction around if that's an intention. Is that our intention to reduce costs? And that would help us to determine, are we eliminating platters? Are we just reducing platters? Are we shifting some of the cost, that we've expended to something along the lines of scholarship type thing in terms of summer programming? There's a lot of those types of ideas that have floated around or keep coming in and out of the conversation. And so I feel like having clarity around, do we want to reduce cost? It would be important. And I also just wanted to kind of shine a light on something that Brian said, which I think is really important. This idea of asking the administrators of each of these schools, what do they think? What is your sense about what would be appreciated? I think they give us an honest answer, and the honest answer might be, it was awesome and we loved it. Or it could have been, I think that it came up at the last meeting, and I had never heard this before because I wasn't on the board at the time. The idea that a board member would go to a staff meeting, actually physically be in presence and say something of appreciation, and that might have value, was like mind-blowing to me. I would never have thought that myself, but I'm not a teacher, and so I think there's value to asking the administrators directly. And we have not done that, but we can, or Deborah could, or, we could do that as a board, but we haven't actually taken that step. So it feels like clarity on the expenditure and kind of like, if we're going to move in the direction of asking the administrators, that might be a good those two things might be, having clarity around them might be good next steps.
Okay, thank you. Tim.
If I may ask Ruby, I was reading the LC minutes from BUHS, and they were talking about Teacher Appreciation Week and doing something for that. So Teacher Appreciation Week is next week. We have to wonder, should we do something during Teacher Appreciation Week? Could LCs handle it? Ruby, do you want to talk about what you talked about at your BUHS LC?
I can speak to that a little bit. I think that the BUHS LC is taking on the mantle of organizing amongst parents and caregivers, appreciation statements, and getting donations of funds in order to purchase some kind of goodie for the staff at BUHS. I think my sense, as just having been involved in that particular effort at PCS at different times, there is no PTO at BUHS, and so the Leadership Council is stepping into a role that at some of the elementary schools, PTOs are doing it. And I think that if I remember back to when we decided to time the appreciation last year, it was actually deliberately taken farther away from the Teacher Appreciation Week because there is this moment of PTOs and leadership councils, showing appreciation, and so spreading it out or having it be at a different time at the end of the year, I think was the goal. I don't know if that speaks to what you wanted.
Okay, thank you. And Eva, her hand up.
Yeah, so we we didn't speak any further, me and Ruby, but I thought we had left it at that we could contact the principals, some of the educators to get their opinions about what we should do. One thing I did bring up the scholarships, and I think that it would be good to get clarity because I do bringing up the scholarships last time for outside scholarships, and the principals do a fantastic job of trying to raise funds every year so that some of the most so that some of the children who have lower income children can attend. I thought that we could allocate those funds, but it sounds like I'm not sure if we're there yet, but it would be good to say yes or no today, because I think there was an expectation that we were going to have some sort of answer. Now, in regards to reducing funding, one thing I'd like the board to consider is that it's not just about like reducing funding, but also allocating those fundings to areas that are closer to the students that we see could use a little boost. So I think reduction is one thing, but making sure that we're making sure that we're organizing and putting that in those categories is very important to me.
So I just want to share my thoughts as a teacher, and I am very close. As a teacher, I am very close to students. Every single day, it is a goldfish bowl to work in. There is not one moment of privacy, not for any administrator, not for any teacher, not for anyone working as staff in an office. We are always looking at young people and always assessing them as they stand in front of us, and we have to come out of ourselves and our own needs. So, a couple of things that strike me. One is it's a goldfish bowl, and it's not, there are very few moments when you get a pat on the back saying, wow, that was great. Or when you come out of a classroom yourself, or come out of running a meeting of any kind when you're not beating yourself up for every single step that you missed. It is very, very nice to come into common space and see a tray that's attractive, that you can just grab a bagel or a muffin and go to class. That is not asking much. It doesn't happen on a regular basis, and I think the cost last year, even though we were able to do it, I believe somewhat discounted, was somewhere in the range of $6,500, something like that, $6,500. I know we are public sector, but that really is not a lot of money to say thank you. And maybe it means that we send a card this year, we send a greeting with the understanding that we're going to do this in October or November, or we do it now, but we can graduate it. We don't have to do every school all in the same week. we can sort of make it easy on ourselves and our communities. That's my pitch for this. Other people, please. And are there any board members, and then I'll open it up, any board members who want to address this? Kim?
Oh, I think Matt had his hand up first.
Matt, yes.
For whatever it's worth, I would just reference for the board that for the most neediest of our community members or students that are seeking support to get into specific summer camps, they may likely be connected with HCRS. And I'm aware that HCRS does have unrestricted funds they can allocate towards students to get into summer programs. So for whatever that's worth, I wanted the board to know that.
Thank you very much. That's great to know. Thank you. Kim?
I was reiterating a little bit of what you said, and I think it's important that, and I think it's important what Eva said and about supporting students, but I think it's also extremely important to support our teachers, our staff, our admin. They do a lot all year long, and to take money from that to allocate it for potential placements in summer camps and things like that, I think it's not what we should be doing, because we need to show appreciation to our teachers and staff.
I think we need to do both things at the same time.
Yeah, and I think,
Yes.
but I think a lot of schools and admins, and they work diligently to try to find money for those students. I don't think we have to, if they were to come to us and say, oh, well, we've got one child we've not been able to take care of, that's absolutely what we would look at, but.
Right. So, where do we want to leave this right now as a board? Oh, I'm so sorry, Nancy, you had your hand up.
I just wanted to say one quick thing, and that is March in Vermont is a very long month. We're all waiting for spring. And this year March was long and April was almost as long, maybe 100 years longer with 2 snowstorms. I just, timing wise, I just wanted to say it's another good month.
Ruby, yes, sorry, it's hard to see your hand up
No,
on
I'm
the screen.
sorry.
Yes, thanks.
It blends in with the books. I think I have 2 things to say, and one is just as a reminder that at our annual meeting, the most robust discussions had to do with the impact of the budget on taxpayers in our towns. And I don't think $6,000 is going to solve the problem. I don't think any of us have that in mind, but I think that there is a way in which the public may scrutinize and may look at the decisions of this body around expenditures. And I think that this, thinking critically about what we're doing as far as this expenditure is a good idea. And I tend to agree that I don't think spending money as a thank you is the problem. I don't know that I think what we heard was, yes, the platters were appreciated, but it might have been a little overkill in certain ways, so a waste of funds. And that's where I think asking if we're at a point where it does make sense to send an email to the principals and ask them what do they think, maybe they would have some great ideas. And maybe a heartfelt letter or something meaningful about what the school means to our community would be a better way to show appreciation. But I also want to say that from my, as one of the individuals that delivered platters to each of the schools, including the EES locations, which were kind of far afield into Westminster. I think if we do something like a platter, I think that it actually is better to consolidate it as much as possible into one delivery day. In part because if one school gets it and they know that other schools are getting it, it feels good to feel appreciated as a district and as a whole. But if you aren't getting it, but another school is, even if you know, you may or may not know what's coming next week, it just is a little bit messy in my mind. And I didn't feel, it is a lot of work, and I think Tim bore a lot more of the work because he did some of the planning pieces. But I think that if we are going to go that route, it makes sense to find a handful of us who are willing to step up and just make it happen.
Eva has her hand up, and then Matt. I just want to say, it just makes me think about anticipation and how we have to learn that lesson early on, that you have to wait for the treat. But I hear your point loud and clear. It just makes me think about parenting. Eva.
I agree with what Ruby said in regards to the finances. Right now with the tax rate, how folks are being hit, it's unprecedented. And what I'm seeing legislatively is that next year, unless there's like a really strong plan, it's probably going to be the same storyline. And one thing that we have, it's not about the $6,000. It's just, as a board, we do need to show the community that we are we understand their pain, and we're being a little bit more conservative as far as like our spending. And every little dollar helps. So if it's like, oh, you saved $500 here, you reduce it $1,000 here, the community sees that and they say, oh wow, the board is really trying here. So those amounts, however small they are, it does send a really strong message to the community of where the board is at. As far as the cookie platters, we were told that there was too many cookies last year. We could certainly, maybe we could reduce that. Or they were, I think somebody said at one school there was a lot of cookies. I'm not sure. But we could certainly look at, maybe there was different ways to reduce that. How many cookies? But if we decide to do the platters, I think it's great for the teachers to feel appreciated. But one thing I would say, as far as spending, it's not just about this amount. It's just looking at having a bigger discussion and looking at all the areas that we can cut back.
Thank you. I do want to say, I think the issue of too many cookies is that we came in at the very end of the year, and there was an outpouring of baked goods that always comes into a school at the end of the year. That's how we got hit with, it's like, oh my God, it's too much. Matt.
Query for the administration. Approximately how many employees do we have in the district? Apologies, I don't know that.
That's 700.
If it's 700, then we are saying we keep with the 6,500. Then we are spending $9.28 per staff member. I don't find that to be exorbitant.
I did the math as well on that level, and right.
To be specific, it was actually $6,131.
Okay, but again, that was, I think we had a bit of a discount last year through the person we were using, but.
Yeah, and we lost our great vendor.
Okay, so I'm sorry, yes, so true, but 6,500, right.
Jackie.
And okay, I did the math because I thought, well, if it's kind of high, then maybe a gift card, but I'm sorry, $9 gift card does not make sense. That would be insulting to me, after being in the trenches like that. So I think there is that. I hear what Eva is saying about being fiscally conscious, and if I don't think we're at the point of a decision this evening. I'm a little concerned about that, and So I'm throwing this open to the board at this point. Sean and then Mark.
Yeah, I really like the idea of a card. I mean, very often when you receive a card, you keep it for a while. You look at it, you think, wow, that's really nice. I really appreciate it. A cookie, not so much, goes fast. So I would be much in favor of an expression
Right.
of appreciation, which I think every board member feels very, very strongly. And to have an appreciation is much more than a.
Yeah, I think if we are going to cut corners this rigidly, I think every step that we take this year will be closely scrutinized as a board. And Mark.
Well, I think to that point, words matter.
Yes.
And I think that is a level of appreciation that educators would love to hear at the end of a long school year. Also, I keep hearing the budget being brought up. We presented a budget, we defended a budget, and it was overwhelmingly supported by our community with some really good back and forth conversations. I think in sharing appreciation and also acknowledging a commitment to supporting educators moving forward with meeting the needs that they have and meeting the needs of students would go a long way. I think whenever we hear talking about cutting programs or cutting back on certain things that teachers really value, that can be demoralizing. And sometimes that is the reality, and we are charged and we have to do that based on challenges we're facing. But I think this board has made an incredible commitment to the school district by defending our budget. And I think showing appreciation to our staff and acknowledging that moving forward, it's our intention to continue to support the amazing work that they're doing, while also being committed to hearing from staff and hearing updates at board meetings. That this board is interested in hearing straight from our teachers, from the people doing work on the ground. I think that would go a really long way, and I know this board is absolutely committed to that type of work.
Jim.
The statement can be, you're right, Mark, words are very powerful. And a statement, not just from one person representing the whole board, but perhaps every board member writing a paragraph about why they value teachers would have a big impact. Pragmatically, I don't hear yet any board members stepping forward to do the work of arranging for the platters if we go with that route.
So let's put that on hold and figure out which route we're going to go on, and then we'll figure out how to do the backup work.
Well,
I would like to, I appreciate
okay.
your hard work these last 2 years. And I'm going to say that if we decide to go with platters, I think that there will be plenty of people who will step up.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would rather make the decision and then put steps in place okay, Ruby, thank you. Now I see your hand. Thank you. Yes.
I guess I would propose, and I'm happy to do this. I would propose that we send a message via Mark to the administrators asking for feedback and maybe, like, what are your thoughts? Do you have any suggestions? What do you think would be impactful in terms of an expression of appreciation from this board to your staff? And if we ask that within the next week and we might be prepared to have feedback that we can chew on at the next board meeting, I'd be happy to do that if that's kind of the will of the board. I also think I wonder, I have worked with organizations before, and actually I think even Putney Central School in the past has gotten little gift cards or note cards that are personalized to PCS. That was what it was at the time. But we could look into Howard Printing or whoever we use for printing, getting something printed that could actually be personalized to this year, a thank you for this year, and that would have an expense. It wouldn't, but it would be more than just buying a generic card and signing it. So I'd be happy to look into pricing for that as well, and have that be something that I could bring to the next meeting too. I could work with Mo to try to find out who would best to talk to. Those are my proposals.
Okay, thank you, Ruby. Any other comment from the board? Brian? Brian, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I would be, in the interest of moving things forward a bit, I would be willing to draft a letter of appreciation that we could decide whether or not we want to modify, edit, and send on to.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
So both thank you, Ruby, and thank you, Brian, and thank you, Eva. So I think you have presented a way of moving forward on this issue, as well as sending an email with Mark's permission directly to every principal and administrator in the district. So if you could send that out and copy me and Kim on that notice, asking for feedback after this discussion this evening. Okay, and we'll take it up May 14th. We're coming to the end of the year. And okay, I'll keep my mouth shut about my personal opinion about this stuff. Jody, I see your hand up.
This is Jody Normandeau from
Yeah.
Dermiston, and listening to you talking about getting a card or something like that and making it more, specific, like Putney or something. What about having somebody from the art department at the high school make a beautiful little card that you send out? So it's using the students to be part of it.
I think that's a great idea, and I'm a little concerned because we are already at May. And it's the end of the school year, and it might be something that we want to look to do earlier in the year, to ask students to contribute drawings where one is going to be selected. That would be great. So let's keep that in mind, please. Thank you, Jody. I think we have a way of moving forward on this. Keith.
I was just gonna make one suggestion, thinking through this for a while now. Each school has an LC member attached to the board. What if, so Tim is my person, what if I just work with Tim and come up with a plan? If the board says, keep it to X number of dollars per faculty member, and Tim and I just figure out what we wanna do for our staff and we set it up.
I think that is.
I like that.
I think that is another really good approach, and
because that would be, each school might want something different. Maybe it's a card and flowers, and somebody else might want bagels. And, I don't know. It seems like that would be pretty easy to do.
yes, and I would go for the bagels. And which is going to be, I think, more expensive than a card.
Oh, but it'd be a lot cheaper than the chocolate cookies.
And I don't eat chocolate, so there we go. Yeah, thank you. I think we have a number of different approaches to go with. And at this point, I'd like to leave it with Brian and Ruby and Eva. Can you work out the details on this, please? I certainly have a page of notes from Dummerston leadership, so I'm ready to go.
I'm sorry, because I'm on Zoom, I couldn't see who was speaking.
The person who was just speaking was Keith Lyman. from BAMS suggesting that, did you hear what he said?
Yeah, I thought it was a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I think that's a great approach. And what say you, board members? What do you want to do? You want to go with that?
Yes.
I'd be in support of it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I don't think we need a motion to go ahead with that. I think we just need the will of the board to report back. And so be it. And if your leadership council is not meeting between now and May 14, please write to the chairs so this can be resolved. We've got to resolve it. Let's get this, let's finalize this for May 14, okay?
I'm sorry, can I interject for a second? I'm not clear on what exactly, are you saying, should we be going with Keith's suggestion of having each, the representative from each of the leadership councils work with the principals to determine I guess
Yes, to determine what might work best for that given community, yes. I would also say a couple of other suggestions have been put forth, and by Brian, by you, by Eva. Can we go with all of them, please? Just go with all of them, all right? And let's see what we come up with. Okay, because I think going with leadership council and what a particular school might want might be very different from school community to school community, and the cost will be very different. And I would not want there to be tension about that either. So let's look at these various options. Matt.
Madam Chair, I'll connect with Marcino about central office and ensure their voices are heard as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And EES. I need someone to connect with EES, please.
Eva is the.
Yeah, I can connect with you.
EES, then we're covered. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Student Advisory Committee, SAC, and student representatives to the board. There is
Madam Chair, point of order, I wanted to reference the agenda on item D, Leadership Council updates.
Oh, we skipped over that completely, didn't we? Thank you. Okay. Backing up a little bit, letter D, Leadership Council updates. Any updates from leadership councils?
I can share central office hosted an orientation on April 16th, which unfortunately fell on the same night of an executive session that I participated in with the board. Fortunately, Mo Hart was able to take over facilitation of that meeting. We had 4 schools represented. The general feedback was that having an opportunity to come together over the course of the school year has been very helpful and appreciated. And I think another outcome was next year continuing that model, but including board members as some board membership for those orientations, as well as some admin membership, and really plan those out over the course of the school year, maybe 3 to 4 orientations. Kind of check in like support systems for how leadership councils are functioning and collaborating.
Thank you. Thank you. Tim.
Which schools will be?
I knew you were going to ask that. Guilford Academy BAMS for sure. The 4th one, it's not coming to mind, but.
Putney Central.
Putney, great, thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks. Okay, so I think it's great to have a variety of voices in those meetings. So you'll stay on top of that for next year, right, Mark? Thank you very much. And invite board membership. Am I ready to move on to letter F? Yes, I am, now I am, okay. Student Advisory Committee and student representatives to the board. This is, it's on the agenda, it's come up as one of those assignments that doesn't bubble to the surface the way work on the subcommittee does. So here we are, Student Advisory Committee. The board representatives, the board advisors, over the past 2 years of this program, and it's only been 2 years, have been Tim and Deborah. We are at the point of putting out the application for the next round of student representatives, and it's really only a selection of one individual. A student was selected last year for this current calendar year, and her participation had to be deferred. She was honored by being selected as a page for the U.S. Congress for the first part of this academic year. So I hope you've had a chance to look at the application. So open for discussion, please, among board members. It's a program that's been in place for 2 years. We have 2 student reps, and the Student Advisory Committee, just to put this in perspective, the way that started was in the first year of this program, every student who applied to be a student rep on the board and who was not selected, they agreed to stay together as a unit. And that became the foundation of the Student Advisory Committee. And for the most part, it is, again, the next generation of students who were not selected as the 2 representatives. And then there are other students who come, who are brought along because of a friend. And it's yet another place for students to be in the high school, to come together, to discuss how they feel in the space. And that's what the discussions are about.
Could you talk about the time commitments?
Would you like to talk about the time commitments?
Okay. Normally, the Student Advisory Committee has been meeting after school, of course, from 5 o'clock to about 7 o'clock. Last year, we met far more than that in preparation for the professional development half-day workshop that the students gave. So it's certainly a time commitment.
It meets twice a month, can I just say. Right, this year, we're meeting with that group twice a month.
Twice a month upon, the students wanted that. It's certainly one of the funnest activities I have as a board member. But if I would be willing to take it on again, but if somebody else wants to step in, I've had my fun for 2 years. So
there is also advising the student reps to the board, the flurry of emails that get sent out. So it is a significant time commitment. We also have a time commitment coming up, May into June, of interviewing every student who presents an application, and then the hardship of making decisions. We have been fingerprinted. We have been, for the 2 student representatives, we certainly have consent forms that we can have one-on-one interaction with them.
And since it's from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock, we feed them sandwiches, which means picking up the sandwiches and so you meet extraordinary people, wonderful students.
And they talk very honestly with us. We are nobodies to them. And that's a very good place to be. It's a neutral adult to talk about their life in the community. And I certainly know as a trained educator that when something critical comes up, my next job, as I hear students vent, and I want them to keep names out of the space as much as possible, but the next step is, gee, so how do you think you can solve this problem? Just hop it right back to them. They're young adults. They know who to go to. They just need to hear their own voices say it very often. So it is that kind of engagement. I mean, that's how I feel about it as an educator.
This is, Madam Chair.
Oh, yes, sorry, Jim.
This is putting you on the spot, I know. But can the chair also serve on the Student Advisory Committee and advisory to the student?
Why are you putting me on the spot, Tim?
Because
I don't like that. I just want to say that.
Okay.
Sure, of course, why not? I mean,
because
I'm
of the time commitment.
Well, but when someone applies for a job, we don't ask them about the time commitment, do we?
Okay.
No, the assumption is if they're applying for the job, they have the time to do it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so, yes. Ruby, hand up, and then Sean.
I think it feels to me like there are two distinct things being, kind of discussed and kind of proposed here. And one has to do with the application or the kind of description that's going to go out to the students. And that seems like a great, I'm sure it will develop over the years, but it seems great. And that would be a good idea. It seems like you have a process for that. I think that it would be wise for us as a board, now that we're, you, Deborah and Tim, you've done a good job at establishing what this group is and how you serve them. And I've kind of assumed that the role of the board representatives has been, particularly to the two individuals who are selected as representatives to the board, is to kind of be a mentor or coach for them when needed. So if they're going to bring up something and they want to talk through, like, what do I say, or how would I present this problem? You can be they can bounce stuff off of you, or you can just pat them on the back and say, good job afterwards. That's what it's felt like to me. And that's great. I think it would be wise as we move forward and as we look towards future years to really be strategic with this particular committee, or whatever we call it, the board members who serve in this way, to have some overlap and have some rotation. So if it's every 3 years, every 2 years, and have if Tim and Deborah were both to step away and two new people came in, I think that would be a problem. And so it would be important to have a plan that would have some continuity from year to year. And I think that particularly with this board commitment more than others, in part because it does seem very fun. It seems like a moment where we as a board are connecting with students, and it has the potential for a great impact, both on us as a board and on these students. And so I think having that continuity would be wise. So that those are just my thoughts. I don't have any design. I actually don't think I have the capacity and time to serve in this way. But I think that there are 10 of us on this board, and I think that I can think of people who I think would serve well in this capacity and might appreciate it. But I also think that Tim and Deborah have done a great job. So just being deliberate in terms of how we think about kind of succession planning and continuity would be a good idea.
Thank you, Ruby. So what I'd like to do is I would like to ask any board members who are interested in pursuing this to send an email to me and copy Tim Price on it. And and send an email, and we'll pursue it from there. Tim and I have had a conversation about this, and it's I could turn around and say the assignment is absolutely dreadful. You wouldn't want to do it. But to be truthful, it is pure pleasure. And it is a reminder of what we are about. It is also a way of walking into the space that represents BAMS, that represents the high school, and being a physical presence. Granted, it's after hours, but there is something about the energy and the way the kids communicate what their day has been like. So it is. It has all of that energy and pleasure associated with it. So please send an email if you are interested, and don't worry about time capacity or whether you're unsure about that. Just let's begin the conversation and let's have the conversation, okay? Because we are both more than willing to step away from this assignment. We know that this has to be rotational, and we know that we have to step away from it. Okay? All right. I'm going to move on to the next issue. And this is, when you asked about leadership councils. So this is also coming from Dummerston. Dummerston made me aware of June 11th. And June 11, whatever Dummerston's graduation date last year was, there was a conflict with a board meeting because I was unable to attend. We have another conflict on June 11 with a board meeting, and we have several schools, elementary schools, with a graduation of June 11. So I did put it on the agenda to ask board members how you want to handle that June 11th date. And I would like to go to the Dummerston graduation, just as I plan on going to the BUHS graduation. But I think it's a good thing. So June 11 is an SD meeting. I don't know what is going to come up at board level between now and the middle of June, but so the meetings in June are the 11th and the 25th. Yes. Kim?
Mark, do you have the dates for all of the graduations? Because there's no point in looking at one and then finding out, oh,
Yes.
that's another.
Right.
Brattown, June 11th. Dummerston, June 11th. BUHS, I was going to report out on that later, is June 21st. Keith, what is it?
BM's is Wednesday, 13th.
The 13th of June?
Sorry, the 12th, whatever that Wednesday is.
Wednesday, 12th. I believe Putney's the 11th as well, but I'm not super positive.
Generally, all the elementary students, 12th.
Yeah.
The Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how do we feel about canceling June 11th as a board meeting? What do you say? What do we want to do? If we have a board meeting, if we decide to go with a board meeting on June 11th, I will be at the board meeting. Right? So, how do we want to handle this? Discussion? Or is this the moment of a motion? I'm not sure. Matt?
Would the board consider potentially meeting on the 4th of June? Just given the number of executive sessions we've had recently, I'm of the mind that we might have some business to attend to.
Okay, all right, June 4th. Thank you. That sounds great to me. Discussion, please. Anybody in the space right here? Ruby.
So I think we should not have the meeting on June 11th. I think there's a very strong argument to not do that. And so whether it's moving it to the 4th or just shifting it to Monday, the 10th, as long as there's not a conflict there, I think that those are both viable options, whichever one works better. I get nervous about canceling or just eliminating a meeting in June, just because we do have a lot on our plate. Yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Brent.
I'm just noticing that Monday, June 10th is a burn-in board meeting.
I'm thinking about what happens when we switch from a Monday to a Monday. So, what if we were to stay with the Tuesday, the 4th of June? How does that sound? Is there a motion?
So moved. To move the meeting from the 11th to June 4th.
Okay.
Second.
Any discussion? If there's no discussion, please indicate by raising your hands and saying aye. All those in favor of canceling the 11th of June and moving it to June 4. All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Eva, I see your hand up.
Sorry, just too long.
Okay, are you opposed?
No.
No. Okay, any opposed? No. Any abstentions? Okay, the motion has carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, that takes care of that. And BUH graduation is, Mark just said, it is?
21st.
It is the 21st. And we had some discussion last year about the board attending graduation. BUHS is the culmination. It's not, talking about board members attending BUH graduation, it's not meant to diminish any other school community's graduation. It's simply an acknowledgement that every school in our district feeds into BUHS. So, BUH graduation is June 21. We did have a motion, I think it was 2 years ago, that, or maybe it was a year ago, that the board would attend, is expected, if possible, to attend. And it becomes that much easier if graduation is outside than if it is inside. But there is overflow accommodation if it is inside, okay? So please put June 21 on your calendar. Mark, do you have a sense of what time? Not really.
I know Hannah, I saw Hannah.
I'm on here.
Okay.
Oh, Hannah, hi, how are you? Yes.
I'm okay. How are you?
Yes, okay. So do you have a
graduation
sense?
at 6:30 on the 21st.
At 6:30, okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. Eva, I see your hand up.
I just wanted clarity. Did you say that there's enough seating for the board?
I said there's overflow seating. So the answer is yes. Whether it's inside or outside, there will be enough seating for board members. We may be in overflow space.
Okay. And Mark will obviously, we'll know further from Mark.
I'm sorry, say it again?
We'll know further from Mark where the seating is.
Oh, that's very easy. It's all.
That's a game day decision. Just, it's based on the weather, Eva, so hopefully it's a beautiful day. The seniors, everybody deserves it. So we're outside, but if not, if we're inside, we'll be in the air-conditioned auditorium in the overflow seat.
Yes, right. And the two rooms.
Thank you.
And the two rooms are adjacent. Okay, moving on. Board subscription to Doodle. Ruby, we talked about this at the last board meeting and decided we did not need a motion. We are gonna go with a motion just to be on the safe side, so be it. Ruby, do you wanna state the motion?
Sure. I move that the board subscribe to Doodle Poll Pro, expending up to $100 annually towards subscription costs.
Second.
We got a second from Kim. Thank you very much. And any discussion? Great. All, please indicate by a show of hands and by saying aye, whether you are in favor of this motion.
Aye.
Are there any negatives? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. That has passed. Thank you. Next point. There has been some discussion about the Wednesday, for want of a better term, the Wednesday management meetings that occur twice a month, about 12 noon to 1 o'clock. And the participants in those meetings are Mark Spino, Elaine Pickney, who is his mentor, Kim Price, Ann Beekman, and Deborah Stanford.
And Carrie.
I'm sorry. Okay, where is Carrie? Is she online? Oh my God. And Vernon.
And Vernon.
Okay, we gotta have Vernon in there. Sorry about that. Mark, do you want to give a brief description of what those meetings are like?
Yeah, it's a regular opportunity to connect, to think ahead towards agenda building, to build on relationships, to give each other a heads up if we see things coming down the pike, and to think about future board meetings and how to approach certain topics. For me, as superintendent, it's been a game changer since Kelly Young committed to this when she was chair, and then it's been great having Ann and Deborah join that group. And I think communication is incredibly important, and having that opportunity to check in every 2 weeks outside of a formal board meeting is really important. And I think the superintendent board chair relationship is super important. So I would hope that we can continue to commit to those meetings if that time still works.
Yeah. Ann, I don't know if you want to add anything, or Kim?
I have really seen how communication between the board and Mark has been facilitated by having these conversations. Because if he's stuck, he knows, how do I approach this? What do I say? If we're stuck, if we think the board wants to communicate something, we can talk to him about it. It just seems better. Things seem more cohesive, smoother.
Mm-hmm.
And no chairs get hit with nasty surprises while trying to chair a meeting.
Yeah. I think Elaine Pickney in the mix is interesting. She is outside of our district. She is a former superintendent, and she adds a perspective to the meeting, which I think is worthwhile. And it's a way of, it doesn't mean that everybody always agrees, but you always have some counter to comment on and to rethink your own position.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's critically important.
Yes.
I see a hand. Eva?
Yeah, I think the meetings, it sounds like it's been really beneficial, especially when, with you and when Kelly was there. It sounded like it was really a really great bridge for the board. But one thing I would, and to be frank, I think that as much as you have a closer relationship with the superintendent and you're able to have these conversations. I do think that there are parts of the board that wish they could have those conversations with Mark as well. And we'd like to have the opportunity to be able to speak with him and have conversations that are outside of just a standard board that we're doing here. So any other board member who wants to speak up and say anything, I think would be great, but I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thank you, Eva. Tim.
And yeah, these sound great. And our expectation, of course, my expectation as a board member is that if something happens in the district that's discussed in these Wednesday meetings, that really has to be passed on to the board, either in executive session or in public. There should be no secrets.
No secrets.
Yeah,
No
these are not
secrets.
secrets.
These are not secrets, and at times something does go to executive session. If it needs to, it goes there immediately. There's been no hesitation on that one.
Thank you for that assurance.
Yeah, yes, and there may very well be that moment where it's like, where someone says, are we ready to go for executive session? The board needs to know about this. We need to know about it before it hits, right? So we do have those kinds of conversations, and as well as a sense that if there is something amiss in the district, it's for the superintendent to contact the board chair immediately to alert key people in the district. So those lines of communication are very, very strong. Board members, okay, yes, Ruby, you have your hand up, and then Christina.
I think I appreciate hearing all of this, and I agree with what Tim just said, and I've felt really happy seeing evidence that there's a growing relationship between the administration and the board leadership. That's great. I'm a little confused about why we're even talking about it that much. It seems to me that this is this meeting is an important part of team building amongst the leadership of the board and the leadership of the district. And I don't think it, yes, I totally appreciate hearing about it, but my assumption is that anything that's discussed is in order to impact and help the board chair decide how to structure an agenda. So that's really what it is. And so it's a tool. You've been using the tool, and I understand the desire that Eva is expressing around wanting to have dialogue with, Mark, but I think the most appropriate place for us to dialogue with Mark is in open meeting, as a board. And that's just the truth. And so creating a space and creating opportunities where we as a board feel empowered and free to ask questions clearly. And if that's not working, then it's up to us to raise that with the chair, and the chair will raise that. It feels circuitous, but it's the process by which, we improve as a district. So I commend, the leadership. If it was Kelly and Mark who implemented it, good job. And stay the course, keep on doing the thing. And I love that Vernon is there, and I love the SU is there. It's great. So I don't feel like there's any need to get further updates on the Wednesday meetings, because I assume that they help to set the agenda, and we will hear about things as we need to.
Thank you, Ruby. Just to pause before I call on Christina. Yes, it is on the agenda because there have been sidebar comments about the Wednesday morning meetings with little ripples of what's going on there. Why are these private conversations? So I'm putting this on here for full transparency. You just heard what these meetings are about. Christina?
I just want to applaud you for putting that in the forefront, and I think it's a structure that existed long before merger, that board chairs would often meet with principals and superintendents. And I just think it's really important to be very transparent, that you are not making promises for the board, all action occurs at a board level. And I think just for the future boards, that people have a clear understanding, the future board chairs, because maybe you don't stay here forever, Deborah, that people understand what your role, that the role is to do that agenda planning, that team building, to get heads up on things that happen between meetings, and it's not deal making, and that's very clear. So I appreciate you doing that, because the suspicion would be, oh, the chair's making these calls, and Mark's figured out a way to get Deborah, and so by being transparent like this, it sets a clear marker as to what the role is of the board chair and what the role is of the superintendent in that meeting. So I very much appreciate you shining some light on it.
I think when something works, it works, and you want to continue doing it. You always want to evaluate and think about it, but, right. Thank you. I'm going to move on if there's no further discussion, and under board matters, unless I've skipped something, we are up to childcare.
Summer schedule.
See that? See? Sorry. Summer schedule. I put that on because I keep a calendar, I keep a paper calendar, I keep it on my phone, and I know that in past years, there's been some discussion about taking July off, for the board to take July off. I can only talk for the board. And I don't know whether that's something that we want to continue to think about, or maybe, given the issues facing us, we should put it on hold and wait a little bit longer to have that discussion, perhaps. We will be working through June, for sure. And we will be working in August. I presume admin is back in August at some point. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right. It may be that the board wants to work in July. I know admin will not be with us, but there may be board business that we need to take care of. Get some things out of the way. I'll leave it on hold. I'll put it on hold.
Yeah,
On hold.
I think we can make that decision as we
Got it.
get towards the end of June.
Okay. I feel
Because
that-
we'll see what we might have on our schedule at that point.
Oh, absolutely. God. Yeah, okay, on hold. Childcare. Let's talk about that. There was the history of childcare arrangements. There is a non-binding motion that took place. I don't have the information in front of me right now. I believe at
2022, the annual meeting,
the 2022,
I believe so.
2022, the annual meeting. So there was a non-binding motion from the floor having to do with childcare. And I don't know that it's ever been acted upon. There is, we can certainly explore childcare arrangements on site. A room here perhaps, maybe engaging upper level high school students who might community service, something like that, whatever arrangement can be made. That is a possibility. Other comment about childcare? Yes,
That might
Comment.
be a child goes to sleep way before our meetings, so that would be of no service to me.
got it. I am so glad you said that, because I was waiting for someone to say that. I come up with a possibility, I'm waiting for a counter to it. Thank you. Okay, and what you need is childcare at your home site, so your child can have as normal a schedule as possible as you're sitting here doing board business.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move this along rather quickly. Board members, comment on this, please. How do you want to handle this?
I
Sean?
make a motion that the WSESD board provide childcare for meetings and other board-related matters that include the board members. And there has to be a financial consideration, and I don't know what that would be.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor that the WSESD school board provide childcare arrangements for board members who need it. And it would be done at a home site. I think that's the motion. Discussion.
If I may make a friendly amendment.
Yes.
This goes back to 2 years when the motion was first made. Childcare and elder care. Elder care was added there. The idea behind this, by the way, was to attract potential board members who otherwise felt, well, I can't make it because I have a child or an elderly parent to take care of. So I would just amend that to include elder care and to also put a cap. I've checked around and $15 an hour for babysitting is very good. So I would just put a cap at $15 an hour.
Okay, Sean.
Yeah, there might be some implication there that the individual is responsible for hiring their own person, so they'll be reimbursed.
Right.
So that there wouldn't be liability on the district.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree that the childcare arrangement is the responsibility of the board member to work that out, and that cost would be reimbursed.
So I'd like to add that to my motion.
And your motion, okay. So the motion, should I put it on Tracy and say, can you read back the motion, please?
I believe what we have is that Sean moved that the WSESD board provide childcare arrangements for board members who need it, done at a home site. And then are we adding elder care in there as well?
We're adding elder care in there, and we're also adding a clause that states that making these arrangements is the responsibility of the board member. Right? All arrangements are the responsibility, the liability of the board member. Okay, reimbursable maximum $15 per hour. Right? Bryn.
Just a quick question or clarification. I hear you saying arrangements. Are you really talking about reimbursement? Just in the language of the motion, if I heard like, you're making arrangements for my child
I'm
care.
talking about two different things. One is actually hiring the individual. So that is your responsibility, that's your liability. It's not coming from the district per se. You're not looking for us to provide someone, as well as the finance of it. And the finance would be reimbursable.
I just as a listener, I wonder if the board making arrangements implies that the school board is making the arrangements for the childcare versus the school board is reimbursing people for making their arrangements.
So that the SD board provide childcare, elder care reimbursement for board members, would that be okay?
I think so, yes, thank you. That sounds great. Okay, other discussion about this. Matt.
I'd like to recuse myself from this conversation as it's a conflict of interest for me, as I have 2 children and might stand to financially gain from this. So I think it'd be in keeping with the ethics. I'll abstain from engaging.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, all the sort of what ifs. So if you have 4 children, are you doing $30, $60 per hour, or is the understanding that you are hiring one person? Is that what your concern is?
Just that because I have children, I'm here. I have a financial.
Because you have children and because you're invested in this conversation.
Yes, I feel it best ethically for me to just remove myself from that conversation in terms of voting. So I would anticipate abstaining.
I see, okay. Okay, that's interesting. Yes, Kim.
Now, Sean's original motion, I believe he mentioned also having childcare on site
childcare at the home site.
Okay.
At the
because
home.
I know what part of what this original
I'm the
was
one
that
who
we were gonna have.
I'm the one who said, let's do something here.
Right.
Which is I know, untenable. It would be untenable for me. I proposed it, but I knew it was garbage.
Just because
Okay,
if
sorry.
community members are
Yeah.
wanting to come to the meetings
Yes.
and
Oh.
we're kind of opening up a.
No, oh goodness. Oh, well, that's wonderful for community members to come to the meeting. Right.
A childcare.
Okay, we are talking, let me just be very specific here. I think we're talking very specifically about board members right now. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're looking to deal with. Okay. Colleen.
If one had more than one child, I do not think $15 an hour would be suitable for childcare.
I realize that. I realize.
I only have one child.
And I also know that the age of a child is factors into this. If you've got 2 children, twins or triplets at the age of 3, that is a whole different kettle of fish. Okay, this is raising a lot of interesting issues, and yeah, right, Eva.
I'll recuse myself as well, since I have 2 kids that are very young, so I'll stay out of it as well. I do have some questions about like who would be considered the babe, like who would you consider the babysitter? Would it be
okay? Can I stop you 1 second? That would be the responsibility of the guardian or caregiver of the child. That has nothing to do with us as a board. Who the so-called babysitter would be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's just a question for the future. I was just looking at, sometimes people have, parents or maybe a cousin or somebody that watches the child. So I wasn't sure, but that would be a conversation for the future.
I think basic integrity is applicable here, that if you have someone at home who is engaged in childcare, then I would think that you don't need coverage. I think you do have coverage. And I would think that would factor in. And that's not a decision for anyone other than you in the moment. So I see Ruby and I see Carrie. So Ruby?
I think I have, if I can remember, three things to say. And one is, oh shoot, now it's out of my brain. I'm not making a friendly amendment because we've already friendly amended things, but I do, in my day job, there's a concern for language around how we talk about older adults and how we talk about dependents. And what we're really talking about is eligible dependents and what care is provided, because there could be adult children, there can be, lots of different ways in which we want to support people. So that's just calling out the use of the word elder is no longer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. There's that. And then I want to I appreciate this idea of recusing oneself. I feel like if everyone who had a child and would benefit from it recused themselves, we would have a much smaller base of people. I have 2 kids. I don't know if I would, partake of this. I have a mom, that I have friends. That's where my kids are right now. I take advantage of those things now. And so I don't know that I'd use it. I don't plan on recusing myself because, in my opinion, I have weighed how important that I think this is. I do think this is an important thing for us to grapple with. And so I don't intend to recuse myself. And so if that's an issue, I think then someone else on the board should raise that and call for a recusal of anyone who has children. And I don't think that's necessary.
Yeah.
And then the last point is that, and this relates to the separate issue of childcare on site or dependent care on site. I actually think we as a board could consider not necessarily always having care on site, but making a statement or having something that's very clearly stated on the website that if someone wishes to partake of, childcare or dependent care, that can be arranged, but you must, give us X number of days in advance. I think there's something to be said about also, I've heard that the Brattleboro Select Board has, and I think that I think at one of our meetings, we had someone who was hearing impaired and having an interpreter available. That's a service that the Brattleboro Select Board, I believe, has, and it is also something that can be available upon request. So I think it would be wise for us as a board to consider preparing to expend funds towards an interpreter and childcare and dependent care, but not enacting it unless it's requested. So that, I don't know that we're going to do that now, but those are my thoughts related to that.
Thank you. Carrie, before I call on you, Ruby mentioned something at the very beginning about use of language, adult children, and I heard some remarks about better choice of language. Dependent care. Okay, so dependent care. Thank you very much. All right. Carrie, I'm going to call on Carrie and then Sean.
Thank you. I'll keep this brief. I believe the Brattleboro Select Board also did this about trying to figure out how to ensure that board members who require dependent care didn't have to take it out of their own pocket. I would be happy to follow up and see if I can find out how they're doing it so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Great. Thank you.
Because I think they did that a few years ago. And if you can give me a week, I'll figure it out and let you know.
Okay. So does that mean that if we're in agreement with what Carrie Emmenden just proposed, that we put this motion on hold until the next board meeting when Carrie can get back to us? Is that okay with you, Sean?
It is. My comment was going to be, I was hoping that it could just be a simple process, a simple amount of money, and a simple reimbursement. And frankly, I think it's gone way over the top. So I was going to call the question, but tabling it is fine.
Okay, I think this is great. Carrie, look forward to hearing from you.
I'm on it.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, and then the final is other topics for discussion, and great. I am going to, it is now 7:45. I am going to propose a 10-minute stretch break. And
you've been waiting all night.
Are we set? Thank you very much. It is 7:56 and the WSESD School Board is reconvening. Thank you very much. We are up to administrative report.
Okay, just got some brief updates for tonight. As you know, we just had our spring break, which was very timely this time of year, the end of April, and kicking off the last 6 weeks of the school year, essentially. So we are in full hiring season right now at all of our school sites. We are gearing up for data benchmark meetings, spring data benchmark meetings. We do a meeting in the fall, winter, and spring. So our spring meetings are right around the corner. We will be doing another round of learning walks with our administrators, curriculum office. I've participated in these as well. Essentially, we partner with peers to do learning walks throughout our classrooms to really use a common rubric to gain a better understanding of how our new curriculum is playing out in our classrooms. So We did learning walks in every single classroom, elementary classroom in the fall, and we're gonna do that upcoming in the spring. So, moving forward, as we look at our board admin retreat, we will have collected a lot more data and information. Maybe not necessarily for that retreat, well, we can refer to it at that retreat, but also be thinking about as we build the calendar of presentations for next school year. I think this is information that we would definitely want to include at the beginning of the year. Our VCAP information, which is the formal Vermont testing data, that is not planned to come out until August. Last year they said August and it was pushed to February. So the goal is we'll have that data in August and we can plan a full kind of data report to start the school year in either the second meeting of September or early October before the budget season hits. This Friday, May 3rd, is Diversity Day. There's will be lots of activities happening. If you're in for some exercise or want to go for a little run, the Green Street School Tulip Trot is this Saturday. A 5K event. It's the 12th annual. It's a terrific event. It's turned into a community event. And if you don't want to run, but you just want to hang out and talk to people, I would strongly advise stopping by Green Street School on Saturday morning. And then
wait, it's Saturday morning?
Saturday morning.
It's Saturday morning. Okay. Mm-hmm.
We officially have our last day of school, unless something crazy happens with the weather or cancellation. But our last student day is June 13th, and that will be a half day for students, full day for staff. Typically, we celebrate students, send them off to summer vacation, and then that afternoon is used for kind of reflection with our staffs, a celebratory luncheon, and then just time to wish each other well heading into the summer as well.
So June 12th is the last day, but that's for bands and for?
June 13th is the last student day.
Okay.
And that would be a half day of school. And then June 14th would be the last in-service day in our calendar.
So does that mean a school like Dummerston that has graduation on the 11th, they're still in session?
Yep.
Or are they?
The students who graduate get a couple of days off before the rest of the
You
students.
mean everybody else has to attend?
Yes.
I mean, while golly, okay.
That's what they've always done.
Oh, okay. Congratulations to the graduates. Sorry.
It's very sweet because a lot of the 8th graders come back for a field day.
Oh,
They
very
can't
cool.
stay.
Very cool.
So those are some updates. I see that there's substitute educators on the agenda again. I'll give some updates here in terms of some more recent data. Happy to share that the 2 weeks leading up to spring break, we had an average substitute take rate at 81%. Our lowest day was a 77% day, and our highest was an 88% day. So we're trending in the positive direction for filling those openings. In terms of this week, we're at a 79% rate for these 2 days. So I know a topic of professional development for substitutes has come up. So I will share that every summer we plan a full day professional development workshop for all of our substitute teachers. This year topics will be classroom management, special ed, pre-K, and then a focus on elementary and upper grades. So that PD day is being planned by a number of people. Just to clarify the onboarding process for substitutes, Consists of interviews at central office, reference checks, formal background checks, and then a one-on-one onboarding orientation reviewing the substitute handbook. So that all occurs before a substitute teacher steps into a school. So, and those one-on-one meetings are very thorough. Substitutes leave the office with their own handbook for reference. So I just wanted to clarify some of those logistical things around substitute teachers. In terms of safety as the academic year comes to an end, transitions are difficult for everyone. And I think the transition into summer break can be very difficult for students. A lot of students rely on the structure that school brings around many different areas of just the times in the day and how they're scheduled and the food that's given and the support they receive from many adults. So that's something I think all educators are thinking about and on the lookout for as we come to a close this school year. Thinking about those students and families where summer break is not necessarily a fun or exciting thing. It's actually a loss. So being aware of that as we move forward through the end of the year. In terms of the admin board retreat, we have a date and a location, June 18th at the Governor Hunt House. Agenda to be determined. We have a group that will be working on that. I believe there's a link in the agenda which highlights the cost of that day. So Mohart has taken recommendations from board members, has made many phone calls, and then taking in all of the information, felt like the Governor Hunt House would be a great place to support a productive retreat. And monthly reports, Matt had a question around some data around behavior. So I don't have any formal comments on that today. Indicated to Matt I would check in with HR, get some insight from legal, and then we can move forward on that topic and what it looks like on a report. I do have some new hires and resignations if we're ready for that.
Can we just stay on monthly reports, because the other comment that came up was account of suspensions, especially when it's more than one day.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if that's possible.
Yeah, so I don't have a formal comment on that tonight, but I'll look further into it and come back at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a
Kim?
First, the facilitator. Are you staying with the same facilitator?
We haven't identified a facilitator yet. We have a group that's going to be meeting to develop the agenda, and I think I see that as part of the work in identifying a facilitator.
Okay, and then, yeah, I'd like to make a motion. So some of us have found that there are a great many venues in our own district for admin and board retreats and other off-campus events. These include SIT, Landmark College, Winston Prouty, the Scott Farm, and others, Hudson Place. So given the abundance of possibilities, I'd like to make this motion. Whereas the WSED strives to support local institutions and businesses, and whereas the WSESD is responsible for fiscal oversight of all expenditures, all retreats, meetings, and other events that are best conducted at venues outside the district's own facilities will henceforth be held at venues within our own local district.
Can you read that last sentence again, please?
All retreats, meetings, and other events that are best conducted at venues outside the district's own facilities will henceforth be held at venues within our own local district. And it's understood that this is SD and this SU, and my hope is that SU would pass a similar motion.
I'll just say in reflection from the admin retreat last summer, there's terrific value in getting out of your hometown.
Okay, I'm just gonna stop you 1 second. Can I get a second on that motion, please? Okay, Eva?
A second.
We've got a second. Okay, let's open it up for discussion at this point. Okay, on the motion. Kim?
Well, on our agenda, we don't have where we'd be taking any action on this.
No,
However, my understanding is that if it is on the agenda, we can take action. Wait 1 second, just wait, unless you're dealing with this technicality right now. So can there be a motion without it being stated as action required or potential action? So my understanding from other meetings is that if it's an agenda item clearly stated, it is motionable. So this is on the agenda, right? Okay.
Showing as a report to us, not an action, or not a thing. So I'm not sure about it. I mean, I'm in favor of it, don't get me wrong.
But this
Right,
is,
but this comes from Vermont.
this is cost of retreat venues, facilitators and moderators. Okay?
Right,
That's-
that's all under administrative report. Again.
So true.
I have no objections to the motion, but sounds like, there might be further discussion to be had from the administration regarding.
There is further discussion. I'm just trying to figure out whether there's a motion on the floor and I just want that resolved. So, Matt,
Madam Chair, my understanding of Robert's rules for small boards is that a member can make a motion even if it's not explicitly listed on the agenda. However, it's generally courteous to stick to the agenda items whenever possible.
got it. Okay. So I'm going to say under the circumstances, the motion is on the floor. It's been seconded. Let's have discussion on it. Okay, Sean.
Yeah, I would just, once again, I think that it should be a recommendation, not a motion that is a dictate. So if I could tweak the motion a little bit as a friendly amendment, to have it a recommendation to the administration in conjunction with the board to try to find a venue that is, or find a venue that's local. I mean, I'm glad that Tim pointed out that it is an SU retreat. So I think it's important to think about that. The Governor House is, I think, used to be owned by Vermont Yankee, and I think the town of Berlin owns it now. So.
Okay. Other comment from board members? Okay.
Just one. I think that if this is passed, it's understood that under extenuating circumstances, if the admin or board needed to go outside the district, then there would be discussion and the board can approve an exception to the motion. But I think this motion is a good one for the benefit of the board and and the public's wishes that we spend money locally. That was also that's enough.
Eva?
I support the motion. I think it's a mandate from the community that we support local businesses, especially in this trying times. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm gonna broaden it out, Mark.
I just think there's tremendous value in partaking in a retreat that is just that, a retreat. From the responsibilities that your home brings to you. And in reflection of our admin retreat last summer in Burlington, it was incredibly, the feedback that we got that we've received from the team and the clarity that we were able to bring to the school district throughout the school year was really impactful. We also tend to have new leaders on the team each year, and it's also an opportunity to team build, to bond away from home, to spend more time together. Our agendas were incredibly packed. They were focused. We brought in consultants from the outside to work with us. This year, I've been kind of reading the tea leaves at these board meetings lately. We need to have a retreat. It's important to set the foundation of a school year. I made the decision to not actually do a retreat this year. Instead, we will collectively sign up for the VPA conference in Killington. The VPA, Vermont Principals Association conference, it mirrors that of the VSBA conference that we attended in the fall, a group of us. But there will be an opportunity to network with educators all over Vermont. Some consultants from all over the country will be presenting and offering workshops. The VPA is in Killington, Vermont. They also offer conference rooms for school districts to do focused work within the realm of the conference. So we'll still get to do that as a leadership team on a more limited basis than last year's retreat, where we were solely focused on WSESU development. So this year it will be everybody use your PD funds to sign up for the VPA conference, which most of us attend anyway. And then we will look for opportunities to utilize the conference spaces to do WSESU specific work. So kind of a combination of both. That's the approach that we're taking this year. I would love the opportunity to reflect as a leadership team on, last summer to this summer, what were the pluses and negatives of both, and provide, the board some feedback on, thoughts from the team in terms of what was the difference between each summer, positive or negative.
Thank you.
Ruby has a hand up and then
Ruby?
First of all, I kind of stopped seeing everybody. I don't know if the camera went away, but I appreciate that we're talking about this. I'm really happy with the movement of this year and focusing in more locally for the board admin retreat. I feel a little bit nervous about dictating in too strong a term in advance, like prohibiting the work of the superintendent in terms of thinking about that team building piece and thinking about what is necessary. I think there's a big difference between going locally and going on the cheap, or putting money towards someone in one of the 4 towns or 5 towns that we reside in versus going to Burlington and spending 2 days at a resort. Like I think there's somewhere in between. And so as much as I appreciate the motion, I'm not sure I'm ready to vote yes on it, because I just don't, I'm not convinced that that level of prohibition is the right way to go. There might be different words that would make me feel more comfortable saying, asking for a more thoughtful approach, and some of the board's convictions on what type of spending, should be prioritized. But I don't know that the way that the wording of the motion is now is something that I would immediately support.
So, does it feel better if the language, I'm thinking about language that was suggested, recommend?
I think that is helpful. I think it takes away from the intention that the original motion had. And
okay.
But I think it would make it easier. It just has less teeth. And is there a way for us to still have the camera? The camera is turned off, or I can't see anyone besides myself.
Okay.
I'm the only person. Like BCTV.
Ruby, I can see everybody. This is Hannah.
I found you. Thank you.
Okay. Other discussion? I'm sorry. Is there a hand up?
No, I was putting my.
Oh, your own hand up. Normally you put a finger up, and
It's usually
it's your hand.
It is. I'll put my hand.
Oh, yes.
I would just draw the attention of the board to the code of ethics that was just signed this evening that says, act within the scope of my official role. One of the bullets, recognize that the responsibility of the board is to ensure that schools are well run, but not to run them. Mm-hmm. And I think there are many good reasons why that injunction is present in the code of ethics. And to me, telling the administrators how and where they can meet, I cannot possibly interpret it in any other way than to say, you're telling the administrators how to run their business. With respect, I just don't see that that's an effective way to run an organization. That's not within the roles and responsibilities that have been defined. And it's really, in a lot of ways, feels really undermining. And with respect, a little disrespectful. And I just on my way out, I'm just sort of, golly, doesn't seem right.
I regret that is, that's the hit that this motion or the friendly amendment has. I think that I'm going to speak for others. I think the view is that this falls under the auspices of board oversight. And we are sitting here tonight talking about money, and so there is, I think this falls into that category. So, I'm sorry, Nancy, yes, I think you had your hand up before, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna be right up front about this. You employ us as professionals.
I can't hear you, I'm
sorry. You employ us as professionals.
Mm-hmm.
You expect us to, and we expect to, give ourselves wholeheartedly to this community and the students of this community the entire school year and most of our summer. And when I say the entire school year, I mean most of us work from whenever we get up in the morning until sometime after dinner. Many of us put in many hours outside of the office. most of us work an incredible amount of the summer. You guys spent a huge amount of time at this meeting, percentage-wise, talking about teacher appreciation and how you show your appreciation for teachers. And I will say that I find this to be micromanaging. I find it not to be a discussion, but a dictate. And I find it really, quite honestly, insulting. If education is now big business, you run one of the biggest budgets within this county, and in fact, schools are one of the biggest employers and institutions within the state of Vermont. You want us to do a comprehensive, cohesive job, and yet you are willing to restrict when and where we spend money. You are also, you both, Deborah and Tim, talked about the fact that you meet with students from 5 to 7 and you buy them at taxpayers' expense dinner twice a month. The reality is we offer after-school meals. We could feed them for the same amount that we feed other students. Why would you treat us with less respect than you would treat them? And the reality is we do a ton of work when we are on a retreat. We also do a ton of team building. That allows us to function as a healthier team than we have ever functioned as in the 4 years or 5 years that I have been in this district. If you were a big company, you would not hesitate to take your leadership team on a retreat, and you would not mandate where that retreat was. Now, considering the amount we work, yes, I think it is fine to say we would like you to go someplace that saves us some money. But to say we are going to do this on the cheap in the local area and all of you are going to go home at night and team building will be off the table, that defeats part of the purpose of a retreat. I'm sorry, it is 3 days. 3 days that the payback is huge for this district. And I, for one, feel like it's beyond the preview of the board. You can set the money amount, but I don't think dictating where somebody's gonna go on retreat is appropriate. And number two, I don't think we are extravagant in what we do. Now, I'm happy to look closer to home, but I just find this to be gut-wrenching after all the work we have done to build a partnership between the board and the administration.
Okay, I am going to say that this is not a dictate. This is a board meeting and it is a discussion. So I hope the gut wrench is containable. Let's keep this on the level of a discussion. Jody Normando has her hand up.
I'm a board member.
You are absolutely right. Jody, you're on hold. Tim.
Yeah, first I want to say that I'm disappointed that this has had such a reaction. I try to follow the code of ethics, which means that you assume the best intentions of others. And this was said with the best intentions. We do have fiscal oversight. We hear from public. I hear from members of the public that going to Burlington to a spa and resort is not how those people want their tax dollars spent. I understand that getting away is a wonderful bonding, productive event. At the same time, the public and I feel that there are viable options within our district, good options that help the local community. But I think the bottom line is, first of all, there's 16 VSA 563. We have oversight. It's our responsibility to do whatever is necessary for the efficient operation of the district. That's our responsibility. Oversight of the budget is our responsibility. Making this motion, I'm really sorry, Paul and Nancy, that you were so offended by it. But my intention in making the motion was certainly not to offend you. It was to move the district ahead in the most efficient way, making the most efficient use of our dollars.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you. Sean?
Yeah, I think what it comes back to for me is a feeling of collaboration between the admin and the board, and the importance of not telling the administration, what they have to do, but collaborating with them, making them aware that there are these issues, that we have to be cognizant of financial implications, and then working as a collaborative team rather than a dictate. So that's why I added the word recommend, because it changes. It's a game changer in my mind. I also thought that, I thought we were discussing the admin board retreat, and then all of a sudden conflated into all retreats. And I don't know exactly how that happened, because I thought we were just talking about the board retreat that is going to happen in Vernon, that happened in Dover last June, and it doesn't necessarily. I would think that the motion doesn't necessarily go to all retreats.
Well, the motion referred to all retreats.
Yeah,
And you mentioned that, is this containable? Yes, it is containable.
Mhm.
We will continue to work together and work together well.
Right.
The reality is this year we're going to do ours at the VPA conference. And I think asking us for feedback on the two different experiences of a summer getaway would be valuable for future planning in terms of setting the stage for the upcoming school year.
Okay, there are two more hands up, and do you have your hand up as well? Yes, okay, so Jody, I'm putting you on hold. Ruby, your hand, Kim, and then Jody.
I mean, I can wait. I've spoken before. I'd like to hear what Jody has to say.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you. Jody Normando, Town of Doriston. The floor is yours.
I am here. Thank you, Deborah.
Yes.
I'm speaking as a member of the public of this whole area community. This is public money that's paying for the school. The public in this area does not go to resorts and spas. The public is very poor lately, and you all know that, and I know the administrators know that, and I know the administrators have goodwill in all of this. But I think we really need to look at what it looks like when, I don't know how many people the administration is. Is it 20, 30 people that go to a spa and resort somewhere else? And I don't know what the total amount of money is, but it's perceived by the public that it's out of sight. We don't even know yet what it's going to cost us for our budget, because the state has not done, as far as I know, the state has not done the yield. So we don't really know what it's going to cost us this year. I think it's just perceive is the word that I and other people look at and say, I don't do this. I'm not a bank. you're a school district on public money, and you really have to keep your eye on that. And your main focus is with the kids. Your main focus is not treating yourself. Maybe the administrators don't feel they're paid enough. I think that the public probably feels that the administrators get paid quite well. The teachers may even feel that in comparison, and they're right down right down with the kids, right in the ditches with the kids. So I would encourage both the board and the administration to really look how things are perceived, not only in this issue, but in other issues, because it is costly for a lot of people in the area, and maybe some of them are just not going to be able to afford it, even though they appreciate what everybody is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. So there is a motion on the table, and I'm sorry.
Can I just apologize?
Yes, Nancy.
I just want to apologize. I have to admit, Tim, that the presentation of the presentation and the idea that it was not a discussion prior to an announcement of what for me felt like a dictate did not feel collaborative. So I apologize for assuming that it was not intended to be collaborative, and I own that. I also understand the idea of taxpayer money, and I completely accept that. Your administrators spend every day in the trenches, as do your teachers. And so I want to say I paid for half of my own room at the retreat last year because I'm fat and I snore and I don't want to share a bathroom when I need it.
Okay,
so I think it's a matter of perspective is all I'm saying. And so if we could please have a discussion, and I apologize for my
So I just
reaction.
I want to clarify my understanding of the way a board works. A motion is put forward. Whatever that motion is, it is seconded, and then discussion occurs. Discussion does not occur before. It can, but in this particular case, it's occurring after. And I think that we have we have a little bit of language here. We have retreats need to take place within the confines of our district. And I think that is, we've had this discussion before, that we would like to support the venues that exist within our district. It's a lot of money that's being spent, relatively speaking. So there is that. The motion, there's a friendly amendment to the motion that says the board recommends whenever possible. I think we need to hear that language as well. Is there any other comment on this? Kim?
Yeah, and I think, we've had this discussion before about the costs, and we're all very cognizant of the fact of the budget for next year. And that, we wanna watch what we spend. But I just find it disconcerting sometimes when motions are just kind of thrown out, without any, not purview, but kind of oh, hey, we're gonna talk about, somebody wants to make a motion on this, and, and we do that a lot. Where it's somebody wants to make a motion on something, and of course, that is our right as a board. But on something this volatile, to just make a motion on it without any oh, let admin know, we want to discuss this, we need to bring this up, we need to have a conversation about it. I just feel very uneasy how we do that a lot.
Okay. I am aware that we've had discussion about this issue already, and I placed it on the agenda as cost of retreat venues to try and open it up to this discussion. Ruby and then Eva.
I think that so my personal feeling is that the superintendent may have reasons why and thoughts around and rationales around why a retreat might be in one place versus another. And I think that is completely the right of the superintendent. I think one of the discomforts that I have noticed is that particularly, if I look at last year's retreat, that the rationale and the reasoning for expenditure is, the board doesn't see that. The board saw this is, here's the expense that we had, approve it. And it was after the fact. And so and this is the discomfort, and this is the thing that's hard of, we don't want to dictate how you run a retreat, but we also don't want to be surprised by a big ticket item when, and this is the really important part. We as a board have been put on notice by the legislature to tighten our belts, that we are going to have to tighten our belts. So that the tea leaves that Mark referred to is what we are swimming in. And so this is where this comes from. So it's not, I would love for us to all approach, even when someone says something that's like, wait, what are you talking about? That's crazy. Let's try to not see it as a slight or a way in which we're trying to pull the rug out from under someone. We're trying to work. This is part of collaboration. And just to speak to something, and I'm pretty sure that Tim was going to say something along these lines too, this idea of emotion, being thrown out there and being alarming. There are different philosophies and ways that a board works. And there is
wait 1 second, Ruby. Okay, go ahead, Ruby. Sorry.
There's very much an approach, and I think I see Tim really embracing this approach, that board actions should be with motions. And it feels uncomfortable at first. It's like we have to exercise it to feel like we're not threatened every time someone throws out a motion. And we also have to be prepared to vote down motion. Like when someone moves something, it needs to be seconded, and it may never be. And once it's seconded, we can vote it down, and that's okay. And the person who gets something voted down shouldn't feel slighted either. It's the work of the board. Mm-hmm. So I just want to call that out, that hopefully we are, and that is in keeping with our norms and with our code of ethics. There are best intentions, and there are assumptions that we are all coming at this without malice or, things like that. So that's what I have to say.
I think that's really critical, Ruby, because we want to keep our discussion on the issue at hand. Very much so. Eva has her hand up.
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised about the reaction, because we did talk extensively the last meeting about it, and we also had community members talk about we had one. I don't know her name, but she talked extensively about how it should be local. So the fact that it came up as a motion today, it does not surprise me at all. I think, yes, we can give a heads up for motions, but from my understanding of the board is that while we do work, motions are going to come up. We can't always give a really long heads up and let people know ahead of time what we are going to be doing. I think that this, in regards to local spending, this is coming from the community. The community is asking us to do our retreat spending locally. If the board decides, we're not going to do that, that includes admin as well, that is your decision, but you need to give an explanation to the community as to why that is, why it cannot be done locally. And as far as what I've heard, and from what I've heard from the community, that the response is not, it's not a good enough response. So that's it.
Okay.
Call the question.
Call the question. Call the question. So the call the question is on the table. My understanding is we vote on call the question first. Isn't that right?
Yes.
We vote on call the question. Okay.
I don't understand. Are we talking about our retreat with the administrators? Are we talking about every retreat? And what do we mean by a retreat?
Okay, right. So there's a question that's on the floor. Can we address that question and then do call the question?
I removed my call until that question.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we are talking about, the red flag went up last year. There was a admin leadership retreat that took place in Burlington. It had a pricey, it had a high price tag after it, okay, and that created a bit of, gee, that's pretty high. It became a question, a discussion about retreats that are live-away retreats that are really essential to bonding, right? And I really want to commend Mark on sending everyone this summer to the VPA retreat. I know that for those of us who went to the VSBA conference last October, and that was an away conference. Those conferences work you so hard. The keynote speakers are brilliant. You come away feeling so inspired. You really, really do. So it's a mix of stuff that's going on in this discussion right now. And that's the best explanation I can give. A board retreat, and I'm just gonna say the board has a retreat coming up Friday. That is being done in-house at a local school, and that contains the cost. And then we go home, right? And it's a Friday night when we're all really tired, but so be it. Are you calling the question now, Sean?
I'd like to.
Yes, go call the question.
I call the question.
Okay, call the question. We are now voting on call the question. Is that correct? Help me out.
Yes, we're voting on calling the question.
Yes, we're voting on call the question. A second.
Closing debate.
It closes debate, but we have to first decide if that's what we're doing. So, do we have a second for the motion?
Seconded.
Second, okay. And all those in favor of the motion to call the question, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. If there are any opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying nay. Any abstentions? Okay.
Madam Chairman, we hear the motion before we vote on it.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, may we hear the motion before we vote on it, please?
That the WSD board strive to support local venues. The board, with friendly amendment, recommends that all retreats, meetings, and events that are best hosted at facilities outside of our town,
Of our own facility.
outside of our own facilities, be held at local businesses.
Okay, meaning outside of our own facilities, meaning the school sites. Right, those are our facilities. Okay, and the word recommend is in there.
No.
Okay, so I was going to ask at some point, but didn't feel like it was appropriate to jump in. I caught as much as I could.
Okay, the unamended motion was,
Well, wait a minute, are we doing the unamended one or are we doing the amended one, the friendly amendment?
good question, because the board has to vote on an amendment to a motion.
Yes, and so, there's a friendly amendment. Do we accept that friendly amendment in order to amend it? Is that another vote that needs to take place?
The mover can accept the friendly amendment.
I see.
don't know if
I
he
see.
does in this
Okay.
case.
Okay, so,
Okay, I'm uncomfortable in doing this because it's a motion of the board. But since I made the motion, I'll accept the friendly amendment.
okay, so we've got, I see. So was that responsibility on me to do it? To accept it as, because I couldn't really do that, could I?
No.
No, okay.
So can I read the motion?
Yes, please read the amended motion that is on the floor right now.
Whereas the WSAD strives to support local institutions and businesses, and whereas the WSAD is responsible for fiscal oversight of all expenditures, retreats, meetings, and other events that are best conducted at venues outside the district's own facilities are recommended to be held at venues within our own local district. I don't know if that grammar is right.
No, the recommended, wait one second,
Yeah,
has to go
recommended
before,
pieces.
has to go several words before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, yeah, right. So you almost need the board recommends in there. I think we need to hear it do we need to hear it one more time? And then,
Yes, please.
please, one more time.
Whereas the WSCSD strives to support local institutions and businesses, and whereas the WSESD is responsible for fiscal oversight of all expenditures, all retreats, meetings, and other events that are best conducted at venues outside of the district's own facilities will henceforth be held at venues within our local district.
Okay, that's not the amended one.
No.
Can
No,
I
that's-
just say, before, you need to get in whereas.
Yep.
And then you need a statement that says, the WSESD school board strongly recommends that. And I think then you get that friendly amendment in there.
There's no strongly.
Oh, forget the strongly, get rid of the strongly recommend, sorry. Sorry about that, no strongly. Okay, so,
Oh, go ahead and read it.
would you, thank you.
Do my best to wordsmith this here. You want the recommends as part of the whereas part?
That's the only one that's on the floor right now,
Okay.
that's the one we're voting on, it's a friendly amendment.
Yes,
Right,
correct.
thank you.
And I'm trying to integrate the recommends
Yes,
part
yes, yes,
succinctly.
yes.
The WSCSD recommends
I think it needs to be
words.
whereas,
Mhm.
whereas, when you come to that last whereas,
Okay,
you've got to pause.
there we
And
go.
then you say
All
the
retreat.
WSESD,
Recommend. So where I get this now. Whereas the WSESD strives to support local institutions and businesses, and whereas the WSESD is responsible for fiscal oversight of all expenditures, the board recommends all retreats, meetings, and other events that are best conducted at venues outside of the district's own facilities will henceforth be held at venues within our local district.
yeah, that's it, thank you very much. Okay,
Sorry.
so we have an amendment, I'm sorry, we have an amended motion on the floor.
Point of information, can I just ask a question? The second whereas, did you mean the WSESD board has oversight, or was that intended to be the WSESD has oversight of fiscal matters or whatever it says?
I'm not quite sure what the distinction is between the two that you're making, Ruby, whether it's the board or the WSESD.
That's my assumption had been that the reason it was whereas was to say the board has oversight, fiscal oversight.
Okay.
I don't, and that's not what it
That's fine.
says.
The board has fiscal oversight, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so it's a wordy, motion. It's a wordy motion. Any other discussion?
No, it's called the question.
Oh, call the question. So sorry. No discussion. Right, no more discussion. Sorry about that. No more discussion. Motion is on the floor and, bring it to a vote. Bring it to a vote. The motion that was just read. All those in favor, please raise your hand and signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And all those opposed, please raise your hand and signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Okay, got it. So I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this one, okay? The aye is in favor of the motion, the amended motion. I just wanna be very clear about that. Anne?
Aye.
Aye. Tim?
Aye.
Ruby?
Nay.
Sean?
Nay.
Eva?
Yes.
Kim?
Nay.
Brian?
Nay.
Colleen?
Nay.
Matt?
Nay.
Okay. Deborah? Aye. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. The nays have it. Do I need to be more specific than that? No, the nays have it. Okay. Thank you. I think, to go back to an earlier comment that Mark made, I think it would be helpful, to have some feedback about what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. We are up to hires, resignations.
All right, we've got 2 resignations. We'll start with that. Michelle Nelson, BUHS academic support teacher, and Erica Salome, Green Street School social worker.
Okay. So, with regret, the board accepts the 2 resignations. Is there a motion?
So moved with regret.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please, any discussion? Yes, Matt?
I'd like to just say Erica has been a fantastic member of the Green Street community, and I am incredibly sad to hear of her departure.
Okay, thank you. Please, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please raise your hand and say nay. Any abstentions? The ayes have it.
Okay, new hires. Allie Cornelier, kindergarten teacher at Oak Grove. Cabrina Howard, grade 1 teacher at Academy School. Heather Sperling, Dummerston, kindergarten teacher. Luke McCulloch, Dummerston, long-term sub. And I do also have a recommendation for the assistant principal at the high school.
Can we just take the before we go to the assistant principal? Okay,
I move we approve hiring the list of staff that Mark just listed.
okay, thank you very much. Second?
Second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, the ayes have it, thank you.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the BUHS administration for the next assistant principal. His name is Alvin Capolo. Before you vote, I do just want to acknowledge that there was a little misstep in terms of following policy D1, where the administration moved forward quickly in putting together a committee and going through a hiring process. During that time, they failed to offer participation to a board member to be a representative on that committee. I will note their central office was not part of the process as well. I trust Hannah and her team. Hannah met with, over Zoom with the board chairs, shared her process, was able to answer questions from the board chairs, and they had a handful of candidates that they interviewed, all of them. And it is the recommendation that the board will accept the proposal of Alvin this evening.
So I want to say this came up, this is an example of a conversation that comes up at the Wednesday morning meetings. And it came up and there was this moment of, oh my God, D1. Assistant principal, there was supposed to be board representation. And this was before spring break when I became aware of this. I think this is a moment, and this was my decision, that this is hiring season. We cannot afford not to, hook someone, grab someone who has interviewed so well and looks great. If we don't hire now, we're into May and we've lost candidates. Hiring season is waning. So my decision that let's work for a glitch like this not to happen again, but congratulations, you've got a candidate. Tim, you have your hand up.
So I read Mr. What's his name? Capolo?
Alvin Capolo.
His, on paper, he looks terrific. A really good application.
Yeah.
So it's not just for expediency that I would vote in favor of this candidate. But at least on paper, he is. But what really concerns me, being on the policy committee, we discussed D1 at length. This was an important policy, and it was not communicated to the principals. So a larger discussion perhaps in the future should be when we amend or create a policy, how is that policy communicated to everybody who really needs to know that policy? Because this was a misstep, this was a miscommunication, and that's unfortunate. The second thing is Hannah's letter came out on the 19th with this decision. This has happened several times, and I know we live in a chaotic, bureaucratic world, but why in the world did we just get the application, the material tonight, hours before our meeting? A lot of board members work until the meeting starts. They haven't got time to go through their emails. It just concerns me that several times now, in the last few months, we've received last-minute applications like this. Okay. So there's 2 points: communication of policies and this last minute.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Eva, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was able to look over the resume for Alvin, and it looks fantastic. And I will say though, I am disappointed at the lack of communication and that we did get it hours before. If I had not been doing Zoom, I would not have been able to see it. So I think that, as courtesy and as respect to the board, we should get the resumes. At least I would say at least 24. Give us 24 hours.
Okay, well, I think the stipulation is 48 hours, but I think I certainly made this point. So I'd like to move on. Yes, we need to, I want to move on to the vote. Yes.
So moved.
Thank you. So moved. Oh, that was the motion. Of course.
Second.
Thank you very much, Sean. Okay, so moved. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor of hiring this candidate as the assistant principal at BUHS, please indicate by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Or are there any nays? Please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations to BUH.
He's online.
Yes, he is. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, sir. I see you, Alvin. Congratulations. Welcome. Hannah Parker, I just saw your hand up. Were you waving as a congratulations or you're muted? You're muted. You're muted.
I was just pointing out that he was on the Zoom and wanted to let you know, but you figured it out.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I am so pleased for you. You must be relieved. And
He's there.
thank you very much. Anything further, Mark?
No.
Okay, thank you. And now, capital plan projects?
Sure. Paul, is it easy to pull up the website? We got the capital plan on the website. I just ran out of battery power, so.
Okay. So while you do that, I would like to call a 5-minute break. Please. Okay, so it's 9:04, we're gonna come back together at 9:09. So we are reconvening, thank you.
Okay.
Frank Rucker.
A brief overview of the capital plan, that's the topic requested, right? Great.
That was the topic that was suggested to me.
Very good.
Got it.
Okay, so it will be a brief overview given the hour. Paul has got the website version of the capital plan that the board reviewed back in January as part of our budget development and then approved. So yeah, Paul, thank you he's scrolling through here as highlights of the many improvements that we've moved the district toward a net zero footprint. You can see in that list where we disbanded and converted our fossil fuel heating systems to biofuel, and now we're working on our last of our 10 buildings at Oak Grove going to heat pumps. So Paul, if you scroll down a little bit more, we'll look at this summary document here. And if you can blow it up a little bit, I want to just share some of the totals as part of the overview. There we go. Thank you. So what you're looking at is the upper section of this report. It's in the annual report as well. You can see the type of improvement in our facilities. The largest investment there, as you can see on the top line, heating and ventilation systems. For fiscal year 25, it's 2.2 million, and the current year it's $1,037,000. The second group of data there is the same information, but it's by school. And you can see that in all of our schools, for the current year and the proposed year, it's about 10 million. You see that on where it says total capital plan acquisition, 4.4 million FY24, and then the colored band of information is FY25, 6.2 million. So that's what was passed at our annual meeting. And this time of year, it's kind of double duty because we have over 100 projects between the 2 years, this year to finish up and then get ready for next year. You have to do everything concurrent, starting in January, February, if you want to retain contractors for the July, August construction cycle. So we're finishing up fiscal year 24 projects, but we're also managing the RFP process for fiscal year 25, which a lot of it hits in just a few weeks, July 1st. So some of the just kind of progress points on this capital improvement plan. Paul, just so folks may be reminded of the format of our report, we'll just look at the very first school. So go ahead, go down to page 5 right there. There's the high school. For each building, we're looking at the asset that is being planned for. So for each of our 10 buildings, we have a standard description of the heating systems, the boilers, the circulating pipes, the valves. The capital plan is everything that might be at least $15,000 per component of the building. So we identify the type of improvement, the installation date. That's what makes this thing more like a 50 or 75-year plan, because this identifies those improvements that were installed or acquired, at the construction of each of our buildings. And that's what tells us what the useful life is. And so then that informs us what year we better have resources to replace those assets. That's what you see there in terms of expected useful life, and then you have the fiscal years across the top, and then that far right-hand column has the year. It's just when was it installed, how many useful life years do we have, and then when does it need to be replaced. So let's budget for it. So that's the format of the report, and as far as highlights of what we're doing right now, kind of a progress report, a lot of roofing projects. We have the high school, we have one underway in Putney. We have just finished a Green Street project. We have a roofing project at Oak Grove. We have the Tenney Field two-part improvement. One is the grandstand outdoor learning improvement, and then we have the field improvement. Both of those bids are out right now and waiting for a response from our bidders. Let's see, the largest project that is undergoing right now is $2.4 million for the Oak Grove heat pump project. That's to remove the old 1929 steam boiler system and bring in, it will be our first fully electric heat pump technology school, which is very exciting. That is combined with our investment in the solar array. In 2016, I was able to get right under the wire under the Vermont incentive for net metering contracts. So most of our power is purchased through that net metering contract, and as we add the load, the consumption load on electric, we are doing it at a discounted rate of about 30% below what the kilowatt hour cost is at Green Mountain Power. And by the way, that's at the solid waste district, right up the road, the 5 megawatt field that we are one of the primary off-takers. So there's a quick status of where we're at. Any questions?
Just a comment. Stephen Dotson, the sustainability coordinator for Brattleboro, sent me a link to a really exciting opportunity, I think, for $300,000 grants to teams of 10 schools or more to make their schools more energy efficient. I would hope that the district looks into this. I passed the link on to the chair, and I imagine she'll pass it on to Mark and others. But it's a bill that was passed by Bernie Sanders in Congress that allocates a lot of money to Vermont, and Southern Vermont is not represented here, so it might be a good opportunity.
Great, thank you. Yeah,
So just a point of clarification, you passed this on to me
Yeah, I forwarded Stephen Dotson's
as when, I'm sorry, just recently?
a couple of days ago.
A couple of days ago. So, with permission, could you forward that immediately to Mark Spino and Frank Rucker?
Yeah.
So can you pass it on to them, please?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. Great. I would like, okay, are we talking about capital plan projects? Is that what the hands were up about? Ruby?
I have a simple question I'm just wondering why we're talking nothing has changed on the document. I love hearing Frank talk about capital plans in that spreadsheet. I love looking at it. But why is it on the agenda today? Did I miss that there's something in particular that we're supposed to be?
The new fiscal year is right around the corner in July. We have some new board members. Thought it was an opportunity to once again remind the board of the upcoming projects that we have planned. Significant amount of money goes into these projects, so it's just an update.
Okay, thank you, Ruby. Thank you. At this point, I'm looking at time, and I'd like to move this along as quickly as possible. There is another item under Fiscal Report that I put on there as an amendment, and it has to do with warrants, having to do with accessibility to the public. But there will be, I think, extensive conversation about when, where, and who will address questions from the community. So given the hour, I would like to put that on hold until the next board meeting to have that discussion. That's gonna take longer than I think we anticipate. So do I have permission to put that on hold?
Yes. May I say something, Deborah, before you put it on hold?
Yes, Jody.
Okay, Jody Normando. I'll be really quick, I hope. At the last meeting on April 9th, I spoke about this issue and wanted the background from the warrants. And on the 10th, I emailed Frank, Mark, and the heads of the board. I didn't hear from Frank, which is unusual because Frank really usually gets right back to me. So he didn't get it or something happened.
I think Frank was away.
Yeah,
was
on vacation.
He was on vacation.
Well-deserved vacation. Okay, Frank.
Yes.
Anyway, in the process, I called the Secretary of State's office and talked to them, and this is public information. So today, just before the meeting started, I saw an email from Frank. He said it a little earlier than I saw it, and where he sent me some information. And I will get back to Frank and answer some of his questions. I do hope that when you do put this on the agenda, that you come up with an easier way, for Frank to let people know rather than sending me a separate email. But I appreciate that he sent it to me, and I will be in touch with Frank. But I wanted to let everybody know because I brought this up 3 weeks ago. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Jody, it's unfortunate. I know you brought it up quite a while ago, and I realized this morning that I did not put it on the agenda officially. It will be on the next agenda, and we will talk about this May 14th. So thank you for your patience. But
Madam Chair.
Yes, Sean.
What I will do in the interim is every time I receive a warrant, I will forward it to Joe.
Okay, for now. Right. Thank you.
So if I miss it, if somebody reminds me, that would be nice.
Okay, so, but I think Jody's request goes far beyond than just Jody getting it. But thank you, Sean, that will be great. Jody, I see your hand is up. Is your hand still up?
Yes, because Frank has said that he would send them to me. So I don't care how I get them. If Frank wants to have Sean do it, that's fine. I'm not going to get in the middle of that. Okay?
Oh God, you are the best, Jody. Thank you very much. Okay. Warrants on hold 514. Keep me in the loop, Jody, with this communication. So that I just have the history of it. That would be great. Okay?
Okay, you want me to email you then?
copy me on stuff, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jody. So now we are up to consent agenda. The minutes from April 9, 2024. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, second.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor of the minutes, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any noes? Please signify, raise your hand, say no. Abstentions? Okay, thank you very much, passed. And then there are minutes. Can I group them for both April 15th, 2024 and April 16th, 2024. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Thank you, second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand or saying aye.
Aye.
Any negations of those minutes, please signify, raise your hand, say no. Thank you. Any abstentions? All right, so those are approved. Okay. We are up to public comment on non-agenda items. And this is truly going to be a time for us to listen and take notes. If needed or appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. Sherry, I see your hand. Can you identify yourself by name and town, please?
My name is Sherry Keefe and I live in Brattleboro, Vermont. I just wanted to express to you that I continue to have grave concerns about how the district is handling the pervasive failure of administrators and principals in the past to report child abuse. I have, per your policy, attempted to contact some of these individuals and only received a reply from John Gagnon, as well as Mark Spino, stating he could not discuss this with me. I feel there is no assurance on the part of the public that you are addressing some of these issues which came forward in the sexual abuse investigation. And I had further concerns about the district allowing a former teacher who also failed to report to participate in activities with kids in the theater department. I don't know why this is happening, and Hannah Parker nor the assistant principals responded to my concerns. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't see that the district is addressing these issues, and especially when the person who is supposed to be retraining these staff is also somebody, the Title IX coordinator, who allegedly failed to report issues of child abuse in 2015 when there was a Title IX complaint about the participation of students in Friends of Music at Guilford activities in which predators were involved in the organization. Might I add, a predator on the sex offender register, as well as multiple predators who abuse students in the school system. You know, it's very frustrating for me that there is no response or assurances that your course has changed and that it's being communicated to these teachers, administrators, and principals how important it is that it's their responsibility to report regardless of what anyone else in the room is doing, regardless of whether or not the superintendent reported. And I have no assurance that that is happening.
I am, my normal response would be to say thank you to someone who comes forward with information, but that is not an appropriate response at all. This is really unfortunate, Sherry. And notes are being taken at this point. Is there anyone else in the public? again, this is a time for public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment at this time? All right, I do realize it is, I do realize that it is late, and I am going to say, by all means, as issues come up, email us. Yes, I do realize that. Ruby?
I'm sorry I didn't notice this at the beginning of the meeting, but can you articulate? I don't think I was completely aware that the public comment on non-agenda items had moved so far down the agenda to be so late in the.
So what I'm trying to do, Ruby, and it isn't that I'm trying to move board business to the beginning of a board meeting rather than having board business at the conclusion of a board meeting. So as I look at the way this moved, I'm looking at moving things around on an agenda. I can bring it further up. I was a little concerned about the administrative report and the fiscal report being so late. And the evening has, we have board business to discuss. So I appreciate your concern about it being so late on the agenda.
I think that I think that it's particularly because we want to capture. We don't want someone who came to say something to not have a space for it and then leave.
Yeah.
I think it would be, that particular thing feels like an important thing to bring earlier.
I appreciate that, yeah. And I must say that my view, and in talking to other board chairs across the state, it's like every piece of the agenda is critical, right? But where am I going to put the fiscal report? So the benefit is that the meeting is recorded, and the benefit is that we have email. So again, I do say that. Is there any other comment from the public on non-agenda items? So I'm going to open it up one more time. Any comment from the public on non-agenda items? All right. So I'm going to go to the last bit of business on the agenda, and that is policy. New business. The Policy and Amendment Committee presents for a first reading F26, participation of home study students in school programs and activities. This policy, as you look at it online and do a compare and contrast, the revised policy, again, is always on the agenda as a link. The given policy as it exists currently is on the district's website. And this policy has been reorganized, recommendation of the VSBA, so that the policy is short and concise at the very beginning, and it's followed by procedures. And that's the organization of this policy. So all the strikeouts that you see in the first few pages are encapsulated on the red pages having to do with moving what is procedural out of the policy itself. So thank you, Paul Smith, for tackling that job. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is for a first reading, 10 days, and it will go to a second reading. And again, comment and send emails with questions. Moving on, the Policy and Amendment Committee presents for a second reading the following policies. B1, board member education. D1, personnel recruitment, selection, appointment, and background checks. We have revisited that policy. It was approved just recently, but because there is now a director of curriculum and assessment that was not in place before as a position, we wanted to see that on D1. So D1 is presented for a second reading. And then we have D2, professional development. Lots of good reading, and it's not 4 nights of insomnia. This is good stuff. Okay, so I'm laughing because Kim Price is laughing and she's confusing me right now. Okay, Policy and Amendment Committee presents the following for re-adoption. And these require action. So E6, emergency closings. E7, safety and security of school facilities. E8, tobacco/nicotine prohibition. F12, transportation. G14, animal dissection. G15, Title I, comparability policy. Is there a motion for readoption?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those against passage, please signify by raising your hand and saying no. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. It passed. Thank you. Is there any further business before this board this evening?
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, please signify, raise your hand and say no. Abstentions. Okay, we are adjourned for the evening and it is 9:34.